What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Scene Snobs podcast. I am your host, the Scene Snob himself, Mick Manhattan, and I'm back again for another week. Thank you for coming back and listening or watching, however you get the medium. Just make sure you give a like and subscribe right here on YouTube or on SoundCloud. Again, wherever you are, Spotify, I just appreciate it. And also hit the notification button. We got a lot of stuff coming out. We have 5 shows going on right now. We have 2 more coming up. So really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys enjoy them. So with that being said, check out again thescenesnobs.com. That's where everything is kind of all brought together, and you can find everything there. So with that being said, let's get the show started. And I kind of want to go back to, it wasn't on the Scene Snobs podcast last week. It was an independent review I did for the Scene Snob reviews, and that was the first episode of Picard. And since then, I've watched it a couple more times, and I've seen other podcasts by many podcasters, I should say, that I trust their opinion, and kind of saw something different in what they were saying. And because I absolutely love the show, and it hasn't changed. I still love it. I want to keep going on with it. I'm so glad Patrick Stewart's back in the character, and I want to see where it goes. But that I kind of gushed over it, and I did have some issues, but there were some more things that I saw for myself, and that I was kind of listening to and kind of taking in from others. I am flexible, if not anything, when it comes to that, because I think it's important, especially when you're doing reviews. But so with the show, I've been hearing a lot of talk from Star Trek fans. Now, I'm a Star Trek fan, but I am not a mega fan. I wish I knew more. I don't. I have mega fan friends who I sit and I can just listen to everything they have to say because they're so smart about the world. And that's my biggest thing is I appreciate the world Gene Roddenberry built. And he built a hopeful one. He built one that we should all aspire to being. And not so much in this new Picard universe. Not just in Picard, but even in an original series era with the show Discovery, they kind of show you things where you're just kind of like, is that really what Starfleet is? But with that being said, especially with Picard, like the show is kind of without hope right now, but I'm hoping against all odds that they will get it back. They will get it right. I hope they don't change the world for the worse. That's my biggest fear of it, because I do love the world that was built, and I'd hate to see it completely destroyed. So that would be my biggest issue with it. But I just kind of wanted to touch down on that because I did do a review, and if you watch that, again, I still love the show. I want to stay with it, really see where it goes. But yeah, no, I mean, it does, there is issue to it too. So with that, let's just jump into a few things, because I want to kind of get into the trailers for this week that I've seen. Some ones that just kind of stuck out at me. Then talk about a few other things going on in the movie news. And some things that I watched. So, Swallow trailer. Actually, just watched it again tonight because I went out to see a movie. Ip Man 4, the finale, which I will be doing a Scene Snob review on. So make sure you look out for that one. That should be coming soon. Swallow trailer is Haley Bennett, who I'm not too familiar with. I've seen her in other things, but in this trailer, she's the star of the movie, and it looks very peculiar of a movie. I'm looking forward to it. I want to watch it. I want to see what it's all about. But basically, she plays a housewife to a well-off man, I guess, because it kind of comes up in that sense. And like you can tell, like there's her in-laws kind of are kind of against her and such, and she gets pregnant, but then like things kind of turn around, and like she starts acting creepier and creepier in the trailer, and she swallows things. She has a fetish for swallowing weird things, like a tack, like all just weird stuff. Like there's a padlock in her box of swallowing things, a marble, just very weird things, and they don't really explain too much of like what's going on or what this is all about. So it's intriguing to say the least, and I'm anxious to see what's going on. with that. Then we also had a trailer for Jon Stewart's new movie he wrote and directed, Irresistible, which stars Steve Carell and Rose Byrne. And it looks like they are campaign managers. One Republican, one Democrat. Steve Carell plays a Democrat. And I guess he's trying to get the Democrats on a winning side, so he finds a war hero played by Chris Cooper, who lives out in the Midwest somewhere, and I guess he's a Democrat, and he wants him to run for the mayor of his town and kind of get the win, or for councilman, or whatever it was. I forgot what it was, and so it follows this election and just kind of the absurdity of what happens during this election process. So very much influenced by the times. It looks interesting to me. A lot of political comedies like that can sometimes get a little too goofy, but I like Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's a smart guy, and he wrote it, so I'm anxious to see where he takes it and what his take is on it, says now that he's been off TV and such. Then we had the personal history of David Copperfield. Now, unlike most of you, I'm sure, I never read David Copperfield when I was in school, and I just never picked it up. I read a lot of other Dickens work, but David Copperfield always kind of fell through the cracks for me. So I don't know much about it. I always made the jokes too, based on David Copperfield, the magician. But this looks interesting. Dev Patel plays David Copperfield in the movie, and also has Hugh Laurie, Peter Capaldi, Tilda Swinton, Ben Capshaw, I believe his name is. They are all in the movie, and Dev Patel playing David. It looks very fantastical in how it's told. And it just kind of like jumps around from when he was a child to when he's older. And again, I don't know much about the story, but it looks like he's kind of like journeying through life, kind of looking for a family and meeting them. And there's some absurdity there in their family. So it's definitely interesting, and I definitely want to check it out. But I do like the way it's filmed. I like the style, and the jokes got me in the trailer. So looking out for that one. That looks really good. Then we have Vivarium, which it stars Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg, fellow Jerseyan. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on that. And they played a married couple who look like they're freshly married, who go into like this suburban, like very manufactured town where all of the houses and lawns and everything look exactly alike. They go to look at a house that's for sale. They go in. This very creepy real estate agent, is helping them, and then they're like, "No, we don't want it." And then they're trying to drive out of the town, and they're stuck. So basically, this movie takes place. They're stuck there. They have to live there. They cannot leave. There's no way out. So they have to stay in the house, and then they get a baby delivered on their front step, and it's like, raise me, and then you can leave. So they have to raise this child through his life before they can leave this prison, essentially. And it's still just them from everything in the trailer. It's just them in this village throughout, raising this child. And just like it looks like a dark comedy. There's some very funny moments in the trailer. There's very tense moments in the trailer. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that too. Fast 9 teaser trailer. So the Fast 9 movie is coming out, and we're going to get a trailer on Friday. But they put out a teaser trailer now, and it follows Dom. He looks like he's living on a farm. He and Letty are living on a farm, and he's raising his son. And by the end of it, it seems like his son was taken. So who knows what's going to happen? I believe Charlize Theron is coming back for it. I believe The Rock is not coming back for it. And I don't think Jason Statham's coming back for it. Now that they have Hobbs and Shaw, and I know there was a lot of tension with The Rock. That might have been squashed, I'm not sure. But I don't think they're in this one. I know John Cena is going to be in it, though. So I don't know if he's playing the villain or what's going on. So it leaves a lot open right now. I mean, it's very hush-hush, but I am looking forward to the trailer on Friday. Because those movies, if nothing, are exciting. And I'll take them. I will take a good, exciting movie over, Well, not much, but I will take a good, exciting movie. And they certainly are, when it comes to exciting movies, on the top heap. And they keep you entertained throughout. So I'm all for it. And I'm looking forward to a trailer, like I said. So we got some news. And just give you my take. So first thing up, it was announced today, Emilio Estevez, Gordon Bombay himself, will be returning in a starring role in the sequel reboot to The Mighty Ducks. And he is returning as Gordon Bombay. And he, like I said, he has a starring role in it. So I don't know how big the role is, but he will be on the show. So I think it's supposed to be like a 10 episode show that will premiere on Disney Plus. And he's coming back as Gordon Bombay. So basically, the premise, I think, is a 13-year-old is kicked off of the junior division of the Mighty Ducks. They didn't say why in the premise. And he and his mother decide to take up the task of creating a new team for the Misfits, if you will. Very Mighty Ducks-esque. So it'd be very cool to get Gordon Bombay back to coach the Misfits team again, to kind of be like, stick it to the Ducks if that's how it is. Like, we're you've lost your way, so we're going to create a new team to show you how this works and what this whole Ducks movement was about. Or if he's in the Hans type role. Now, if you remember, Hans owned the hockey shop that, they all got their gear from, and he was friends with Gordon Bombay. So it'd be kind of cool to see him like kind of take that up. So I'm definitely interested in how that plays out, and I'll check it out. I'm not a purist in the form of like, well, the Mighty Ducks should never be touched. Like, it's been redone over and over and over again in many different ways in many different sports. So I don't think it needs to remain untouched. It's one of those things that I think can be rebooted and into like a sequel-esque thing. So then you have Lethal Weapon 5. So Lethal Weapon 5, they came out and they announced that Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, and Richard Donner will be back for Lethal, or in development right now. So they've all signed on to be a part of it, and it's in development at the moment. So I shouldn't say they're getting ready to start filming or anything. There's nothing about that. I don't know in what capacity it's going to work. I don't know if this is going to be a passing of the torch. I know they tried that in the fourth one, and with Chris Rock, and it just didn't really, like, I liked the fourth one. The fourth one was a good movie, but the passing of the torch didn't really seem to work. I love the Lethal Weapon movies. 3 is my absolute favorite. 1 is amazing. 2 is brilliant. 3, I just love for nostalgic purposes. And it's still good. I still think it holds up as a good movie, a good action movie. And 4 was great. I just watched Lethal Weapon 1 the other day, and it still holds up. It's still a great movie, and I think it's underrated compared to like Die Hard, when you get the whole Christmas argument, things like that. And as great as Die Hard is, and Die Hard is a great movie, great action movie, one of the best, Lethal Weapon really stands up with it, I think. And I love this combo together. They were always great together in all the movies. I love the friendship aspect, the family, the whole thing. So if they're coming back, great. I don't know how they're going to do it. I hope it's done right. I really do. I mean, they obviously, Mel Gibson might be able to do the action, because if you remember, only a few years ago, he did the Expendables 3, and he did pretty good in that. Like, he held up in the action. Like, and if he's playing a too old for it character, but can still do the action. But then again, I don't know how they're going to do it with Danny Glover. He's way too old. I mean, we just saw him in Jumanji. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but it definitely needs to be the last one, I think. And it always makes me laugh. We're in 2019. Oh, no, we're not. We're in 2020. What is wrong with me? We are in 2020. I'm still living in the past. What is going on? So we are in 2020. That first movie came out in 1987. And Murtaugh's character was like 5 days away from retirement then. and opted out of retirement. You know how many years you have to put in, especially, I think in the LAPD, you have to put in 25. So like New York, it was 20. So let's say 20. Let's say in the LA Police Department, you have to put in 20 years before you can retire. That means he was a 20-year veteran, 5 days away from eligibility to retire in 1987. Means he started in 1967. Which kind of doesn't really add up because he was in Vietnam, but whatever. And now we are 33 years from that. How is he not? You can't be 53 years a cop. I don't think there's any cop that could be a cop for 53 years. They're not going to let that happen. So I know I'm kind of just playing it up, but like I just, it's so hard to believe. I mean, he's got to be retired at this point. The fourth one was still in the 90s when it came out. So it just boggles my mind that they're coming back. Like, I don't know that it needs to be retouched. I mean, I love those movies. I don't know that we need a fifth one. Unless they're both captains now, which they tried in the fourth one. They were too old to be out there, so they tried to make them captains. So this whole thing, I'm sorry, as I'm thinking about it, my mind is exploding with just like the math that goes into this. And it's just like, if Murtaugh's on the force since 1967, right? It is 2020. How are you still a cop? How are you, even if you're not, even if they force you to retire, right? And he's not a cop. Let's say they forced him to retire 20 years ago. Fine. I'll accept it. 1990, again, I'm still living in 2019. The year 2000, he had to retire. Okay, and you figure Briggs is probably maybe 10 more years above that, if that. So let's say they're retired. What are you going to do? Are they going to have to solve a mystery in an old folks home? Like, I don't know where you're going to go. Where are you going to come back as consultants? But the whole point of these movies are, they are the lethal weapons. They are the ones that are so I keep using the word absurd, but it just fits. They're the ones that are so absurd and bring this whole level of action to it. That how are you going to do that in 2020? I understand. I don't get this. I don't get it about remakes. I don't get, not remakes, but like reboots, rehashing. Like, fine, make Halloween 40 years later where Michael Myers is 63, or whatever age he is. I'm not doing that math right now because my mind is still exploding from Lethal Weapon. So, but he's in his 60s. So fine, I will accept it, right? Now, suspension of disbelief, he should have been a lot slower than he was. But he was, he also played vicious and he sneaks around. So I'll accept it. That suspension of disbelief, I accept. What the hell? What is going on? How are you going to pull this off? I want to know. I would love to talk to Richard Donner for like a second. I understand these men are still very much alive and these men are still very much good actors. There's nothing against that. But I'm sorry, you're not a cop for 53 years. And you're not living to the level of excitement that you should be. If you watched Bad Boys for Life, those guys were too old for this. They were too old for it. And they are much younger than Riggs or Murtaugh are. So, I don't know. Oh my God, that's what drives me nuts about, I'm sorry, that's what drives me nuts about these reboots where now we're bringing back, like in action role types, we're bringing back these older characters because we love them so much. But it's like, if I can use a wrestling analogy, bear with me. The Undertaker. The Undertaker has always been a dynamic, polarizing character in the WWE. Since he started, he started wrestling in the 80s, like in 84, but he didn't become The Undertaker until 1990, actually, like right at the end. So, this character is still wrestling today in some sort. And there, as a wrestling fan, you just have to kind of be like, This guy's in his 60s. Knock it off. I don't care how good in shape he is. He can't keep taking these bumps. So now let me take that to the filmmaking side of things. I don't want to watch an old Riggs and Murtaugh ruin what they were by coming back onto the screen and trying to do what they did. And, I'm fine with them being funny. But, it's just not going to work. And the passing of the torch, I don't need the passing of the torch. You gave me 4 good movies. Leave it alone. There's some properties we need to just stop. Again, I said with the Mighty Ducks, I don't think Mighty Ducks, there was a sanctity to Mighty Ducks that we had to hold to where we can't redo it or revisit it. I think that's perfectly fun to revisit because that's something that's about a team and you can have new teenagers come in. Lethal Weapon, you can't just have 2 new cops come in that are like Riggs and Murtaugh and it's going to be a passing of the torch. You can't. It's Lethal Weapon because they were the lethal weapons. They were the ones that went out there against the rules and just did what they had to do and caused mayhem. So, in the name of the law and justice. So, it really bugs me that they're going to come back with this again in 2020. I'm sorry. For the 20 years ago, you should have come back with 5. I'm sorry if they weren't signed on. I'm sorry if Mel Gibson was going through some problems or whatever. And I'm using that term lightly. But, I like Mel Gibson's movies that have been coming out. Like, I like Bloodfather, Get the Gringo, things like that. Like, I liked a lot of his movies. I liked him in The Expendables. I thought he played a very dynamic villain in that movie. I thought he did a really good job. But then but it's 2020. All right? I don't want him back for Mad Max. Like, no. They made a right choice by getting Tom Hardy to take over the role. Just remake the Lethal Weapon movies. Take the formula, remake it. I'm fine with that. They remade it into a TV show, and it started out really good. I really enjoyed it until all the issues started happening. Then it was just like, get rid of it. Because once they got rid of Riggs and replaced him, and then they were going to get rid of Murtaugh, it was like, you don't have the show anymore. You've already gotten rid of the Lethal Weapon, and now you're expecting... Now the other part to that equation is leaving too. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that they're redoing it, or they're going to do it with a 5th one. I don't need it. You tried it with a TV show. It worked for a small amount of time. It didn't work after that because you ruined it. Because you took one of the key elements out of Lethal Weapon in that show. And now in this movie, if you try to pass them off as still the lethal weapons, the ones that will fight for justice, this, that, and the other thing, then it just doesn't work. And you can't, in today's society, you can't have cops like those anymore. You can't. It just can't happen. I don't know. I know I'm getting a little too riled up about it, but there's a lot of BS that's coming out in the name of, like, again, I can't say remakes, but like they're rebooting with the same characters and stuff. It's getting old. Like, there's some stuff you're allowed to remake. There's some stuff I would say maybe wait, you shouldn't remake. But then all right. So like, let me go back and complain even a little bit more. So they have a sequel coming out to Big Trouble in Little China, which they've been talking about for like 3 years now, and it's going to star The Rock, and it's going to be a sequel. But in like a spiritual sequel where it takes place in the same world where you have The Rock. But you don't need that. The Rock's not playing Jack Burton. And granted, yeah, it could be different trouble or whatever, but you have now where you can't take 2 characters and still have them as cops 50 years later. You can take Old Man Jack, which they made a comic book series about it. You can take Kurt Russell, bring him back, say, hey, you're playing Jack Burton, and this is what Jack Burton's doing now. It'd be great. He meets up with Wang's son. Melian and Wang had a son, and he's got to come back and take care of him. But Wang's son's a badass who knows martial arts and has to protect Jack. Jack is a sidekick yet again. It would be awesome. That works. That's something you can reboot and bring back, and it works. But then, like, they don't want to try that. They want to get The Rock to do it. And I love The Rock, and I think The Rock is amazing, but I was like, he doesn't need to be there if Kurt Russell still exists, and people will go see Kurt Russell. That's proven. Like, we watch his movies. Um, the Santa Claus movie was like a huge hit, and he was the star of that movie. So, I don't know. But then we're getting Lethal Weapon 5. 20 years too late, in my opinion. It drives me crazy. And I think I've ranted about this long enough. But, so, then I get to another one that I want to rant about. So, Doctor Who. Now, if you don't know, I am a huge Doctor Who fan. If you can't tell, that's the TARDIS. I have it tattooed on my skin. I love Doctor Who. I got the silence hash marks. I want to preface this by saying I really like Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. I think she does a great job. I know she caught a lot of flack. A lot of fanboys got real mad because there was a female doctor. I don't care about all that. It's fine. You can't complain about established continuity and then complain that the doctor turned into a woman. That's established continuity. Time Lords can do that, so I don't care. And I think she was a great choice, and she does well. Now, with that being said, I'm not a huge fan of all of the companions, and I'm not a huge fan of the showrunner, because I don't like... It's better this season than it was last season, but I think last season was very overwhelmingly huge. Like, he brought us to like such big places, and it was very heavy-handed in a lot of times. And now, don't get me wrong, the Doctor teaches you lessons on societal issues and things like that, and I've always loved that, and I've always thought that was great. But they don't slap you in the face with it. It's always been very... I don't want to say subtle, but it's always been very... They don't punch down, how do I put this? So every time they've done it, they don't treat their viewers like they're stupid. Every time they've done it, it will be a woken message that when you watch it, you're like, okay. And you don't feel any less. You don't feel dumber for it. That's not so much the case with last season. Last season, it feels like they were trying to teach us lessons because they didn't think that we could understand them. And that bothered me, because it was like, this never really been what the Doctor was. And this season so far, not bad. It's better than last season. It's kind of gotten back to where it needs to be. It still feels bigger than it needs to be, but whatever. I still like Jodie Whittaker a lot. Now, here's my issue. If you want to have the Doctor be a female every generation from now on, fine with that. And if you get solid actors to do it, it's even better. I don't care. To me, the Doctor's always been very grandfatherly. But even Jodie Whittaker kind of pulls that off. Like, I think she does a good job with that. Now, my issue with it is, you have this newest episode, they introduce another Doctor. Now, they've done this before, and it's kind of up in the air, like, oh, is it really the Doctor? It says it's the Doctor, and she's a Doctor from another timeline that neither of them remember where they're from or what timeline, or however it works out. It's going to be explained. For anybody who's got a problem with it because it's another female Doctor, you're a jerk. If anybody has a problem with it because she's black, you're a jerk. Who cares? And she was really good on the show. I think her name is Jo Martin. She was really good on it and playing the Doctor. But I don't even care if you do, because it's a lot. There's a lot of speculation right now that maybe she's not a Doctor from the future, a future incarnation. She might be a Doctor they don't remember from a past incarnation. Kind of throws off the time. It kind of throws off the timeline and everything you've built up to, like the 13 regenerations and getting more generations. So it's very strange in that sense. I almost prefer they don't do it just for that. But if they did it in the way they wrote it, however it plays out, it could be fine. Like, I'm not even worried about it, because you could even go back and kind of change it up a little bit to say that the second 10th Doctor regeneration, the one that goes with Rose, who's human, you could say, that wasn't a real regeneration. I'd be fine with that. And then maybe she was, there's been some speculation she might be between 2 and 3. And if you explain it right and it covers all the plot holes and do it, fine. I don't care. You're right. You didn't see the regeneration between 2 and 3. So we'll see what happens. But there is some heavy speculation that to make the Doctor's original gender female, they're going to retcon everything and make her the very first Doctor incarnation. So before William Hartnell. Here's where that bothers me. It bothers me because of the legacy. Now, if this show wasn't on for almost 60 years, if the show wasn't on for almost 60 years and built such a legacy, and William Hartnell is the first Doctor, that's he was proud of that fact. He was proud of what the Doctor was, and he was going to miss it. And when he left, he missed it. He didn't want to leave. It was poor health that took him away. So, putting anybody, even another man, again, it's not about the gender thing. Putting anybody before William Hartnell is the wrong choice. That legacy starts with that man, and you let that go. You let it go. I almost would say, please don't put him I would almost say, please don't put this Doctor anywhere between 1 and 6. I'd even accept 7 because the TV movie, Paul McGann, he was just, you could do it, put her before Paul McGann and before the War Doctor and all that. But like those first 6, they've built a legacy. They are who they are. And those numbers are theirs. When they introduce themselves at conventions, things like that. I'm the 5th Doctor, Peter Davidson. I'm, Sylvester McCoy. I'm the 7th. I'm sorry, 7th, not 6th. The first 7. So those numbers were their tags. That's what Doctor I am. So if you if you put anywhere in between, it takes away from that legacy. It takes away that number from them. And I just don't think that's right. As a Doctor Who fan, I just leave those alone. Make her the 8th Doctor. Fine by me, before McGann. He's proud of it, but at the same time, he was just proud to be the Doctor. And Paul McGann's still alive, and I'm sure he would accept it and be fine with it. So I hope they don't. I hope they don't mess that up. I really don't. But I don't have faith that Chris Chibnall will not mess it up. I think he will, and I think just to make a statement, and that's what bugs me. Because again, I don't care if the Doctor's a female. And if it was started out or it was made original, and we didn't see the Doctor as a young boy, as a child, like. I think that if it wasn't already established in the timeline, then you could do it, but it is established. But I still don't think that you should take it away from William Hartnell, especially him. I don't think you should take it away first 7, but especially William Hartnell. Don't take away his legacy of being the first. And don't try to retcon or try to do anything. And the thing that throws me off the most is they're doing this, and that took away from Captain Jack Harkness coming back. He has a small cameo, and it was such an unneeded cameo at the moment. It was just nice to see him. It was great, but he didn't even meet the new Doctor, and that's the point. I a lot of this is driving me crazy, and I hope it doesn't work out the way that it's supposedly planning to be worked out, and that they actually do justice by it. So, that being said, you might be wondering why Godzilla's here. So last night, I got, it was so exciting, Psycho Cinema, which is the cult film club that I belong to here at the Alamo in town, showed the original Godzilla, not the American version, the original version. and the best version. So we went and I took my 7-year-old to go see it. Man, because we love Godzilla, so we watch a lot of the Godzilla movies. He's never seen the original until last night, but we've seen a bunch of them. We've seen King of All Monsters, and I'm talking about the original. I'm not even talking about the new one because we haven't actually watched the newest one yet. We want to. We just haven't. We haven't sat down and watched it yet. But we did watch Godzilla from a few years ago, and we've seen a bunch since. I have not shown him the 1998 horrible movie that kind of craps all over what Godzilla is, but who knows? Maybe we'll get there one day. But so we love Godzilla. That's our thing. So we go and we sit down. We're getting our things together, and man, the movie comes on, and I was nervous because I was like, this is all subtitles. I don't think he's gonna love this. I don't think that he's really gonna be into it. It's 1954. It's black and white. Granted, there's cheesy effects in all of them, but there's really cheesy effects in this one. But what got him, because we walked out and we had a really good conversation about nuclear weapons because he understood the allegory of it all. He really got it and he really loved it. And I think the thing that he loved about it is, and that's the thing about Godzilla, the original, that I think holds up to this day, is the heart and soul of it. That's why Godzilla is able to go on for as long as it has, is because it's always had that heart and soul of what Godzilla is. I mean, I love Godzilla. I think those movies are fantastic. There's some really bad ones that I still think, like, it's still Godzilla, though, and it's still great to see. So that was a lot of fun to go to. So with that, and taking him and seeing his face and then talking to him afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I've noticed this and this, because we get fact sheets when we go to see the movie. And he was reading through the facts, and he was like, yeah, it's really interesting that they did it this way. And the whole experience, being able to see these movies with my kids, especially on the big screen, is like reliving it through their eyes. And I've talked about this before, and it's just something new, but this is really special for me because I got to see this with him, and Godzilla's our thing. Like, that's our thing that we, I would love to claim Star Wars, but like, he's my stepson, so like with his dad, he'll watch the Marvel movies, he'll watch Star Wars, and we'll watch them too, but like that's a connection he has with his dad. And we have, listen, it's not only on Godzilla, we have a lot of connections too. I love the kid, he's fantastic, he's a great kid, so, but Godzilla is like one, like, we watched we started watching old Monster Vision episodes where they were showing Godzilla movies, and he just fell in love with it, and he was all into it, so it was a really good time, and I'm really glad that he got to see the original, not the American version, the original Japanese version of the movie, and he got it. He walked out of there like, wow, that was really good, and I definitely understood what they were trying to say, and we just had such a great conversation and so much excitement behind it. So like, it's fantastic. And thank you, Psycho Cinema, for doing that. It's just amazing how you do it. And now I've been spending a lot of time lately. So I watched a couple other movies. Like tonight, I just watched Ip Man. I went for the Alamo Film Club, and I watched Ip Man 4, the finale with them. And make sure you check out my Scene Snobs review of it. That will be coming out soon too. So with that, I watched another movie, and I kind of wanted to praise this movie a little bit and talk about it. And so it was a documentary on Netflix I found, Iron Fists and Kung Fu Kicks. And it's about the rise and, it's still here, so there's no fall. But like sort of the rise and like the history behind Kung Fu movies from like the Shaw Brothers productions and Golden Harvest and things like that. So, they talked about that and like the evolution of the Kung Fu story and like what it was in the 60s, what it was in the 70s, going on from there, and the stories they were trying to tell, and then the influences on the 80s, and then hip hop being influenced by it, and hip hop movies being influenced by it, and then also having that influence in show up in Kung Fu movies, and how the stunts kind of progressed and got better and better and better, and they go through, and it was a beautiful documentary, and there was a lot of really cool names in there. Michael J. White, Scott Adkins, Sydney Rothrock. Uh, she was that martial artist. She did a lot of movies in the '90s that we rented on on video from the video store. Uh, so many, so many. So they talked about some really good movies. They start, of course, primarily with Bruce Lee and kind of like his rise with the Kung Fu movie and how he brought it to sort of a prominent place, and then kind of where it goes from there, and the stories they were trying to tell. And man, it was really interesting just to learn all about it and the processes that they used to go through, and that they used to have real Foley on set making the sounds as they were as they were going while they were filming, and I just thought that was brilliant. So, and the long takes they would do, and like you knew these guys were so good, and the choreography was so good. The longer the take, like so, if you there was at one point they're saying like if you count seconds through the take, the longer the take, you knew the better the martial artist and the actor was at it. So it was just a really cool doc, and it's up on Netflix now, so I should definitely say go check it out. But yeah, I've been like I realize Kung Fu is Chinese, Ip Man Chinese, and Godzilla is Japanese. I'm not trying to um, combine the two. I was just saying, going through foreign films and kind of deciding on it. And to me right now, I haven't seen 1917 yet, but the best movie of last year is Parasite out of South Korea. Truly beautiful movie. So I've been watching a lot of foreign films lately, and it kind of resonated with me with what Bong Joon-ho said at the Golden Globes when he won about like don't be afraid of foreign films, like and it really meant a lot. Like when he said that, I was just like, yeah, it is pretty amazing. Like we get not just a view of so much culture in these movies, but you get really good stories that we're not seeing here in America. American movies are not making stories. Like, I just went on a rant about a new Lethal Weapon movie. I also went on kind of not a really a rant, but like I was touching down on like as epic and kind of like not I don't want to say intriguing, but like exciting as the Fast Nine is going to be in the Fast and Furious movies. There's no real story to them. There's no compelling. There's nothing in Parasite out there, and it's foreign films that are really bringing these stories to life, and I think that's kind of what bugs me about like what's going to happen at the Oscars, because we all know, because you have Parasite nominated for best foreign film or international film, I think is what they're calling it now, and then you have it for best picture. I'd be very surprised if it won best picture. I'd be very surprised. So we'll see. Usually when they're nominated for two, like the foreign film will get the international film. So I guess my biggest thing, the thing I want to say the most out of all of this, especially having taken my 7-year-old to go see Godzilla and it's all subtitles, just don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on foreign films. Go check them out. It is such an important part of filmmaking. And you get a whole new world. Like, if you love movies, if you're somebody who says, I love movies, I love them, I love them, love them, and then you're like, but I don't like subtitles, I don't want to read. You don't love movies. You don't. I'm sorry. And I know, because when I was younger, I was there. I was like, I don't care about foreign films. America makes the best movies. And it's not true in any way, shape, or form. And what changed my mind there, so back in, I want to say the year 2000, maybe 2001. I think it was like fall 2000 though. My best friend, still my best friend to this day, Lenny, he was taking a film appreciation course at his university, and I was kind of kicking around. I wasn't really going to college. I wasn't doing anything at that time. I was just like 18 years old, and it was kind of like, whatever, I'm just going to kind of deal with life. They didn't call it gap years back then. It was just like you had a job and you did what you did. So, but I always wanted to be a filmmaker. But where I grew up, and how I grew up, and like the level of, my, I certainly wasn't really middle class or anything above. So you didn't, just because you wanted to be a filmmaker, once high school ended, you were kind of like, no, if you don't get into a college or you're not going, you're not really going to become a filmmaker. And, I always had like this thing against foreign films. Like I said, it was an ignorance, really, is what it was. I never wanted to read while, I was watching a movie. So I never found myself to kind of appreciate it. Well, he dragged me to class one time. He's like, hey, come here. I want you to come to my film appreciation class. I know you're kind of bummed out, and he went to college, and good for him. He went out and he was he was trying to become a filmmaker, and he went out and he really did it. And, he did it through college until he graduated and became a psychologist. Um, he dragged me to this film appreciation class. We sat down, and like everybody knew I was new. Not really new, but everybody knew I didn't belong there. But they were really cool about it. They were like, yeah, he kind of knows his stuff. And the teacher's like, so do you like foreign films? And I was like, nah, I like American films. American films are usually the best. And he goes, really? Do you think so? He's like, I'm going to show you a movie. And at the end, I'm going to ask you what you thought of it. And I want everybody to listen to his answer. And he showed me a movie that I saw for the first time that I absolutely fell in love with. And that was Cinema Paradiso, an Italian film. And if you have not seen that movie, go watch it. It is one of the best films ever made. It boggles my mind why it's not on lists, but it boggles my mind that if you watch, well, it's the American Film Institute, but like even the British Film Institute, I don't know if it's on there. It might be on the British. I'm not sure. I have to double check, but it boggles my mind that it's not on more American lists for great movies. It makes me think that there's a lot of ignorance out there. And like, listen, I can't fault him. I was ignorant at the time, but this teacher showed me this movie, and it opened my world. From that point on, it was like, I need to see more foreign films. And not just the foreign horror movies, things like that. Like, I need to expand my brain. And now, because I guess it's almost a fear of like, I'm probably going to miss something if I can't read through quick enough or whatever. And it's not, just watch it. Because just watching like Parasite recently and Pain and Glory, which is another one that's nominated. That was a beautiful film out of Mexico. And watching Godzilla, the original Godzilla again, like I've seen it on TV, and but to watch it through my stepson's eyes, who's 7 years old, and he is not used to subtitles, but he watches, he read it, he understood it, he went through it, he got it, and there's no fear now. There's no fear of subtitles, and I'm glad that he has that at 7. I'm glad he's not going to be ignorant about it growing up and being a movie lover. So my biggest complaint there is like, if you're a film fan and you don't watch foreign movies, you are not a film fan. Now you can argue with me on this all you want. I'm usually very open and very, I reciprocate other people's thoughts and things, and like if I change my mind, I change my mind and I'll go along with it. That's fine. But my biggest thing with that is, with this, I will hold steadfast, especially because of Cinema Paradiso, because that means you've never seen that movie. If you have no appreciation for foreign films, you've never seen that movie. And just to see, like, it's not only so much a culture, but like what a foreign film says about their own country, but that kind of just shines through. Like when you watch Parasite and to see how they are living in the movie and what it takes for them to, because in Parasite, like, not to give too much away, but yeah, they are forging documents. Yes, they are trying to get into this rich lifestyle, but to be workers, they're hardworking people. None of them are like, backing away from the work. They are putting in the work. Now they are deceiving. They are con artists, but it's just to get to a point where they can work. And I think that it transcends so many things, so many countries, things like that. And so many foreign films are better told stories than we see in America today. And if you want a good story, so now if you're a film fan, you say, I love movies, but I don't like foreign films, then you don't love good stories. You don't. Now, that's not to say that America has no great stories or anything like that. They do. But if you are only in this bubble of what is being produced out of this country, and you're not expanding it to see stories that are so much different. You can understand the stories that are come out of America. You get those, but you don't get the other side. You don't see what it is in other cultures, and I hold to that. If you say you love movies but you don't watch foreign films, you don't love movies. I'm sorry, you don't love movies. So you like being entertained. That's it. So with that, I'm gonna sign off here. I don't want to piss anybody off. I'm sure I did. But, I kind of hold to that. And I will have the discussions. Please, message or comment below or send me a message. Let's talk it out. I love to hear what you guys have to say, but that's kind of how I feel on that. But yeah, otherwise, but I do like to hear from you. And like I said, give a like and subscribe to this podcast, either here on YouTube or on Spotify or SoundCloud if you're listening. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I am at the Scene Snob. We have the Scene Snobs page on Facebook, very active on there, so you can message there. If you have any requests of movies or shows or anything like that you want to watch and review, I'm happy to do it. Go check out thescenesnobs.com. We have tons of content on there and even more coming. We have a filmmaking podcast coming up, starting this next coming month. And then we have a Cult Classics podcast coming up, which is going to be very exciting to do. And we're going to have a lot of interviews coming on. We got some film festivals I'll be going to and things like that. So look forward to it. And I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So thank you for listening, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.